Hi, everyone, and welcome to Jehovah Boy. I'm your host, Doug Smith, and this is the podcast all about struggle, hardship, trauma, bad shit, overcoming it, channeling it into your creativity without letting it define you. My guest today to celebrate our 10th episode is my friend, comedian, and fellow ex-Jehovah's Witness, Aaron Putnam. I hesitate to call Aaron a friend because even though I do consider him a friend, we have known each other for 14 years. I've stayed at his house. He has cooked dinner for me. We've done shows together. We just recently came to find out that we were both raised in the same cult. I started this podcast. He hit me up, was like, dude, seriously? You too? We got to trade war stories. So that's what we did. I'm sorry if things get a little bit inside baseball. We try to break things down in layman's terms, but we had a lot of catching up to do. Now that we realized we have both attempted to run from our past, and now we're forming a new bond over it. It's like catching up with a war buddy. I do feel like we are war buddies. People say Marines are a brotherhood. Once you're a Marine, always a Marine. I'd say the same is true of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. We have both been in the shit, and we are still paying the price for it. PTSD, night terrors, the whole kit and caboodle. You can take the boy out of the Jehovah's Witnesses, but you cannot take the Jehovah's Witnesses out of the boy. That shit is deeply ingrained. Aaron and I have both hit rock bottom and had to scramble our way out of the rubble to build a life for ourselves in the real world after being raised in a sci-fi novel. And it was great being able to have so many parallels with somebody who, even though he was raised in a different part of the country, in a different congregation with different parents, it's virtually the same upbringing, and the level of repression is just was remarkable. It felt good to commiserate with somebody about that because, you know, your early childhood years are hard enough. With no birthdays, no Christmas, going door to door, having kids from school answer the door. It was brutal. Once you hit your teen years and the sexual repression kicks in and everybody just looks like they're about to burst out of their own skin, it's that's when that separates the men from the boys, and that's when you really put through your paces. And it doesn't work. You cannot force people into a life of sexual repression without it completely backfiring, without serious ramifications. You cannot tell a teenage boy that he cannot masturbate. If you want him to abstain from premarital sex, you need to encourage him to masturbate until that thing is just chafed raw. That's the only thing that might buy him some time. If you tell a teenage boy that he can't masturbate, you could tie his hands behind his back. He will devote his life to a yoga practice that will allow him to suck his own dick. There's no way around it. It's hilarious that the Jehovah's Witnesses double down on this repression and they don't give any leeway, because the Amish, it's a pretty strict religion. Certainly very strict. A lot of rules, a lot of regulations, but they have Rumspringa. That is a time in an adolescent's life before they're officially baptized where they're given a year to venture out into the world and live the most depraved life imaginable. The church turns a blind eye. They don't question anything. Drinking, fighting, fucking, whatever they want. They are allowed to go out there for a full year and experience all the spoils of the world, and then make a decision if they want to come back to the church. And shockingly, I read the statistic, over 80% of Amish teens return to the church to be baptized and devote their life to the religion. 80%, over 80%, after enjoying all the spoils the world has to offer, come back. That's devotion. Those are the members you want. I don't know what the Amish are doing, but to experience all the world has to offer and still be like, yeah, blowjobs are pretty cool, but I'd rather churn butter in a barn I raised myself. That's a hell of a church. Sign me up for that one. But anyway, it was fantastic catching up with Aaron, and we got a lot more to catch up on, to be honest with you. This may be part one of a two-parter, three-parter. I don't know. I may have him on as a recurring guest because we barely scratched the surface. So please enjoy, without further ado, my conversation with Aaron Putnam.
Yeah.
It's hilarious that we've known each other for this long. I came and stayed with you in Chicago a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Stayed at your house. You cooked for me. We did shows together. And not until I started this podcast did you hit me up and say, holy shit, man, I was raised JW too.
I thought there was less of us, but they seem to be, well, broken people usually become comics in some way, and then bad religion, weird upbringings. I think it's like, it makes sense now, but I thought there was very few that thought Metzger, and then when you said that, and then I met somebody else, I'm like, my goodness.
Yeah. It's just hilarious the amount of time that we have spent together over the years. Not a ton, but enough that you would think we would know that about each other. But clearly we were both running from our past.
Oh, dude, it's my first go-to was to not admit that ever to anyone I met, usually. Because I spent my whole childhood explaining to people, I can't come to your birthday. I also can't do anything. So I don't know why. I'm not sure. It's pretty deep. Trying to explain it.
Yeah, it's tough to break down in a quick convo. But so you are, what's the generation? How far back does it go generationally?
And it goes back, I guess, just to my grandmother. So long story short, my grandmother was a Jehovah's Witness for from her 20s all the way to when she died in her 90s. But she was married to my grandfather, who was not a Jehovah's Witness and a pretty big drinker, and had my mother and my uncle and my aunt and tried to raise them as Jehovah's Witness. The only person that retained it through all the chaos was my dad met my mother when they were 19, and he was in jail, and my grandmother brought him a Bible, and he was like, I kind of like this, but he only likes certain things about it. That's the thing. He was like, I like hippie stuff, like no war and peace and free food on Sundays. That's what he thought being a Jehovah's Witness was. He forgot about infidelity, like all the things that he's really good at, all the bad things. Like, I think he's on the other team, but, so I was very confused. But yeah, so my whole life, though, knocking on doors when I was 6 years old in a little tie and suit and just never wanting it, man. I don't know. It's just so weird because it just seems so crazy to me.
So wait, your grandmother went to the prison that your dad was at?
Like in jail, like county jail or something. But like that's how it happened. Is like my father was raised by Catholics. He was an altar boy, all that crap. But somehow between dating my mother, who did not want to be a Jehovah's Witness, because they met like in reform school or something crazy, like bad kids. But my grandmother was this solo Jehovah's Witness running around a family of people, a drunk husband and 2 kids. Are like, yeah, we're not doing that either. So she's just like, ramming it down their throat basically. So it's pretty wild, dude.
So she got into it when she was 20 all the way till when she died at 90. So she stuck around for 3 false promises of Armageddon.
Oh, dude. And my grandmother, no matter what happened, because from a very young age, I'd be like, this doesn't seem like it makes sense. And they explained their way out of everything. And just like to the day she died, she needed like a blood transfusion. And she was like, nope. Like even at 90, my uncle is disfellowshipped. And I was like, you don't want to see your son before you pass? And she's like, I can't do it. Like, they're just like, I mean, they got him locked down. Like, I don't even understand that. It's like, they got disfellowship for what? And now they can't see their children. It's insane.
She was hardcore to the end, man.
Yeah. I was like, Uncle Tim's your power of attorney, so you might want to talk to him for a second. But just dude, it was wild. It never made any sense to me, just because I was like, I'm a human being created by Jehovah, and you're telling me I can't jerk off, I can't do this, I can't, like, everything that the world you put me in. That's how I was as a little kid. I'm like, you put me here. What is happening? Yeah.
So, all right. So you go even further back than me. So my mom was the first one to bite. So I'm only, I was only second generation.
Did it happen kind of, I want to ask people, like, because your dad didn't really want it that much either, right? He was like, my wife's going, so I guess I'm going.
Yeah. Which seems to be a running theme, right?
Yeah. They're just like, we don't, okay, honey. And then, but like, it never really works. But, it's usually one person in a marriage is like trying to find real, like, some kind of savior or whatever. And then it's like, Jehovah's Witnesses seem to grab a lot of those. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Usually a couple would make that decision together. I mean, 2 Jehovah's Witnesses can get along really well. If one's doing whatever and one's a Jehovah's Witness, not so much. And some people do.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of guys out there that subscribe to the idea of happy wife, happy life to the point of destroying their entire family.
Yeah, like where's mom? I don't know, knocking on doors or something.
Yeah.
It's wild. They make good neighbors, though, I have to say. I mean, as far as human beings, they're pretty decent people.
That's what I tell people. I always tell people, if you have the opportunity to hire a Jehovah's Witness to work for you, absolutely do it.
And guess what they like to do? Like my stepbrothers and sisters are all like pioneers. Like all they do is go to other places and knock on doors, everything. They all wash windows because it's the only job you can really flexible schedule and remain very poor because you're not living for this world. So everyone in my family is like, I'll wash your windows. Your kids though, you know what I mean?
You don't need a college degree. You have your nights and weekends free for meetings and door-to-door ministry.
They've upped the meetings though too. When I was going, I did my first 5 minutes was the ministry school. That's when I did you do on Tuesdays I used to like do 5 minutes. You'd be like in the Bible school and give a little speech.
Talk. Yeah, sure.
Talk. Yeah. So that was my first 5 minutes. My dad wrote it because I didn't care. And it was a little fatty now that I think about it. But I like that attention. But I was like, where are we going with this? Because he read it, wrote it down. He just kept shoving it down my throat. I was like, I'm not doing this. I want to ride my skateboard.
Dude, that's hilarious. We were getting stage time way before any of our contemporaries in terms of the comedy world.
And those annoying mics that you hate at shows that have a boom on it or whatever, like we dealt with those early. Oh my
God. Yes. Remember that was one of the responsibilities of one of the brothers at the Kingdom Hall was the boom mic operator to adjust it for the speaker.
And there was always for me, dude, I was so an outsider that I was like, there's always one cool guy and one cool girl about your age. You're like, they're the stars of the Kingdom Hall. And like, all they're really doing is they're probably going to get married immediately because everyone's trying to bang immediately because you can't have sex. So by 18, they're like, I'm ready to go. Like, yeah, let's have some kid. Like, I'll take him. He's right here. You know what I mean? And it's just wild, dude. So all my siblings got in trouble when they were younger because they also fell short because, getting baptized when you're 12 or 13 and then dealing with your hormones. So everybody can talk to me no matter what I do because I never took a bath. So I can just roll in and, I'm serious. I'm not ostracized. I'm just like, I'm good.
You found that sweet loophole, man. That's the thing. You never get baptized. You can't get ousted. You're labeled inactive. So if you were to come back to a meeting, they'd be like, oh, Brother Putnam, welcome back. Where have you been? We knew you'd come back.
So that's what they did to my dad. Got disfellowshipped so many times. I spent more time at the Kingdom Hall with him with nobody talking to him than anything. It's like we're just like this family sitting in the back with like the fucked up dad that's like had to go. I'm like, you're not good at this. Stop making us go too. You're horrible at this. Fucking.
So we're definitely getting a little bit inside baseball, which is, of course, par for the course. No, it's okay. It's par for the course. But let's break it down a little bit for the lay people that may not know the ins and outs of this. So you're assigned a Bible passage, like say it's 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1 through 12, right? And you have to take the stage. How old were you when you did your first one? Do you remember?
I was like 7.
Yeah, same here.
7, 8 years old. Yeah, it's brutal.
I think we were reading like the level on like a high school level because we're trained to read the Bible. Those are
That's a good point.
Some mind-blowing words in there.
Yeah, dude, that helped.
It certainly did. Yeah. So we had to read a passage from the Bible to a congregation of, my congregation was about 80 people at the time. So 7
Something
years
like
old. That. You're already, I was a shy kid too. Got to take the stage, standing on an actual soapbox behind a podium, standing on a literal soapbox so I could reach the microphone, read a Bible passage to 80 people, and then basically do commentary on this Bible passage on how this is applicable to daily life and how to maintain godly devotion.
Yeah, it's a book report. Yeah, a book report and how all the weights and everything, the scriptures are all like relating to, see, this is why it makes sense. So yeah, you had to come up with your own opinion of it, kind of a synopsis, and read like a half of it, I think. Whatever, you read it for 2-3 minutes and then you commented on it, I think. And I think everybody got a participation trophy per se, kind of thing. I definitely got some ice cream that night or something. I don't know.
Do you remember you were also graded on specific points pertaining to that talk? Like one would be like
Oh yeah.
repetition for emphasis, where you'd have to hit a certain point several times, or gesturing.
Sure.
That was always a one that I was told to work on again. So you wouldn't even, 7 years old, you're public speaking for the first time ever, reading the Bible, commenting on it, and then you're critiqued. It's not just like they give you a thumbs up and rapturous applause. An elder will take the stage and then critique your reading, your commentary. And if you do a subpar job as a 7-year-old child, you're told to work on it again. So I would be standing there stiff as a board, just, in robot mode, just regurgitating whatever my parents wrote down for me. And then I was told to be looser, get into it, be looser, gesture more, express yourself with your hands, So then I would just be like doing sign language up there. I would rehearse my talks ahead of time and have like specific hand gestures, I'd be like, and Christ rose from the dead. And it was so unnatural and ridiculous looking.
Yeah, or like using like trying to be, or you'd watch the at the assemblies, you'd watch them act out Bible plays. So you're like, trying to be like take off of their stuff or whatever. It's just so wild. I mean, it made you pretty competitive at a young age, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, before I knew anything about the world, I was like, I want to be like some nerdy kid that was like killing it or something in the church, in the kingdom hall. I was like, that guy's got he's popular. You know what I mean? I was in the middle of it all. It just sucked.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude. I remember the critiquing. I remember feeling like, my dad wasn't a good teacher. Like the kids that had elder dads, like they were better at it. It was too much pressure already. Like, what am I dealing with this shit for? And I go to school and I'm dealing with their shit.
Dude, I know that, because being a Jehovah's Witness is like, it's a full-time job in and of itself. Between reading, you have a daily text you're supposed to read, which again is another Bible passage with a paragraph or two about applying it to your daily life. You have daily text, daily Bible study, 3 meetings a week, door-to-door ministry.
3, at least 3, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday.
It's constant maintenance and upkeep. And we would have these meetings and be expected to complete our homework assignments as well. I remember showing up to school on like Wednesday morning and Friday morning after having gone to a Tuesday meeting, Thursday meeting, getting home at like 10 o'clock at night. And being like slumped on my desk, trying to prop my head up, falling asleep in social studies class. All the teachers thought I was on drugs because I'm fucking nodding off it at 8 a.m. And it's like, no, it's the antithesis of drugs. If I do drugs, I'm out on my ass. I wish I had drugs.
Right. And I'm a little older than you, where it's like back in the day, man, it was like so much more of it. The bullying at school was like, I'd go to school and have to explain to people like, no, I'm not in a cult. I don't drink blood. We're not Amish. Like, we don't make butter. Like, I was like, dude, I just can't celebrate Christmas. And, I wash windows. Like, it was just like, and everything I did wrong, because it was such a mind fuck, I'd be like, anything I did, like any kid would get in trouble. I'd be like, oh, Armageddon's coming and I'm not getting saved. Like, that was like, I lived in that world too. Like, I thought it was coming. Like, the years went by, I'm like, again, it's not here. It's late. And they'd have an excuse.
Yeah.
1,000 years to us is one day to Jehovah. Come on, man. You're killing me.
Yeah, it was a lot of debunking of myths, right? That's why I try to keep it very close to the vest. I told as few people as possible that I was Jehovah's Witness. You can only keep it so close to the vest because when, the birthday cupcakes are getting passed around and you got to uproot yourself and go to the library.
Yeah, in Michigan, where I grew up too, like so many people probably thought we were so corny. Like the teacher would go, well, Aaron's got to leave because he doesn't celebrate birthdays. Like everyone was on board to shit on me about it. It wasn't fun. Like now it'd be like, you'd be nice to that there's so many rules in place for bullying, but man, it was just kind of like, there he is.
Yeah, dude, it was brutal. So I tried to tell as few people, and then when people did find out, yes, endless barrage of questions. So you're just debunking myths left and right. No, we don't fuck live chickens. Yes, we can cut our hair.
Did you ever knock on anyone's door you knew in your neighbor? Did you ever have to go to like?
Oh, dude, that's the catalyst for the title of this podcast.
Jehovah boy.
Yeah, that was my nickname in 7th grade, man.
Dude, I'd get to a certain neighborhood and I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? This is John Willingham's some kid I grew up with. I go, this kid's never going to shut up. I go, that's his house. I can't go. I'm running away.
I grew up in Ridgefield, Connecticut. So we would get a territory map and we'd have to go down to like 5 different towns. And, I would just cross my fingers every time I would get assigned a territory map that it wasn't in Ridgefield. I had like a good a good like a good like 80% chance that it wasn't Ridgefield. But of course, 9 times out of 10, it was. And every now and then, it would be my exact bus route. So it's like, oh, great. So now 30 kids are going to know I'm going to be outed in a single afternoon. Everybody's going to know the full scoop. And yeah, it was brutal, man.
Oh, dude. So juicy for them back then. That was good gossip.
Oh, sure.
Make fun of Doug for knocking on doors. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, now I see them on corners. Like, I think they don't knock on doors as much. They set up a little kiosk. Like in Manhattan, you see them on the corners. They have a little like
dude. Doesn't that make you furious?
It's always the
that
same.
Makes me furious when I see that.
Yeah,
anybody
dude.
can do that.
It's like everything's easier now. Like I grew up on welfare too, and we had pink money, like Monopoly money, and now they got debit cards. You can be poor under the. No one even knows anymore. I'm walking around like Jehovah's Witness with Monopoly money. Like, hey.
Yeah, you spray paint your welfare card black so it looks like a Visa.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I'm a high roller.
I remember that money, man.
Yeah, I mean, like going door to door was like, it was brutal. Like the thought of asking and it's really become magnified since becoming a father. You know, the thought of asking my son to spend his weekends doing that.
Sure,
because he's a shy kid too. Like he loves dogs. He's hesitant about going up to strangers to ask to pet their dog. The idea of having him be like, yeah, go up and knock on that person's door. I don't know who's going to answer the door. Yeah, they might threaten to shoot you. They might release an attack dog on you. They might hit you with a hose. I don't know, but this is God's will is for you to convert them as a child. But the idea of going door to door was terrifying, but we did it. And now, yeah, when I see these people just setting up shop on the sidewalk with these little kiosks where it's like they're waiting for people to come to them, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
We were in it.
They don't even know.
We were in combat.
And your mom your mom practiced the whole time, and your dad, and they stayed together, but he stopped going after a while.
No, the opposite.
Did you go when you got a little older?
The opposite. So he was like, he didn't really see it as much of a threat. It was like, hey, you want to fucking join this cult? You want to go to these meetings, knocking on doors, whatever. Don't ask me to do it, but you want to do it? Sure. You want to raise all our kids that way? Knock yourself out. And then over time, it became like, you know, it's so immersive. It becomes your community. It becomes your world. Like that's your whole social circle. She would have other Jehovah's Witnesses over for dinner, go to Jehovah's Witness, you know, graduation parties or whatever. And that world slowly became his world. And it became, you know, if you can't beat him, join him sort of thing. And so, again, it was like, well, I know. And you're held, your status in the congregation is determined by the devotion of your entire family. So if you got a couple of stragglers, you're kind of looked down upon.
Yeah, it's cliquey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I was never the first one, and our family was never the first one invited to anything either because my dad was so weird. I think he liked it he just liked the chaos of it, I think, because he just definitely wasn't devout. So it was just wild when he'd have like 3 elders over for Sunday dinner in our trailer, like with like no furniture, just like weird stuff. Even they were like, this guy, they get all of them, man. But yeah, I never understood all that too. But yeah, the friends, I mean, I was constantly in fear of like how to act.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing. Like you don't have your own identity, right? You're constantly just trying to conform. You're a cog in the machine. You feel like you're being you feel like you have security cameras on you 24/7, right? So you're just trying to fall in line and behave, knowing that you're even afraid of certain thoughts. You think, because you're taught that. Jehovah knows what you're thinking. So you have an impure thought or an immoral thought. You're like, oh, fuck, he knows. I didn't act on it, but he knows.
And then they fuck you with that thing where there's no real hell. It's just, nothing. So that's even worse. It's like, if I die, I won't even, if I'm not good, nothing happens to me. It's even, just all this heavy shit to be talking about.
Oh, it's, yeah. I mean, the fact that I'm not in a padded cell in a straitjacket right now is a miracle, because the amount of anxiety and fear that it instills in you to behave a certain way is nuts.
And I will say, the people that are really actually devout and not weirdos, like my stepmother, it's like that's just what she's believed her whole life. And my father interloped into her very pure life and kind of messed her up a little bit. But like her being the way she is fine for me. She doesn't push it on me. Like she's a good person, but they just believe it from day one, man. The ones that really do believe it. Did you ever watch the people that took the cracker too? Like that would be like the prime, the event of the event of the year would be like, who's lying and saying they're going to heaven? What is he, a psychic?
The people that took the cracker. That's hilarious. Okay, so let's break this down again too. So no holidays at all, right? No birthdays, no Christmas, no Halloween.
They're pagan.
They're all pagan.
Yeah, pagan.
I remember the only account of a birthday celebration in the Bible. Do you remember this? This is why they tell you can't celebrate birthdays. It was King Herod told his daughter on her 18th birthday she could have anything she wanted, and she asked for the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter.
Yes, that's right.
The man who was responsible for baptizing Jesus. So she asked for the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter, and her dad was like, King Herod was like, all right. I mean, I said whatever you want. So he presented her the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter. Because of that, we can't celebrate birthdays.
And didn't it rain down on them for doing that though? Didn't God come
I don't know. I don't know. But bottom line, some psycho goth chick got a head on a platter, and now we can't have some Duncan Hines.
Some psycho goth.
I'm not asking for a head on a platter. I want a fucking balloon and a song. I'm happy with that, man.
She's like, get rid of him, Dad. I don't like him. Cut his head off. Oh my God. Oh, it's so insane, dude. I don't know, man.
So no holidays, but the only celebration, and it's hardly a celebration.
Which one is it? I can't remember.
So the memorial of Jesus' death.
Oh yeah,
that's their celebration. Because apparently in the Bible, that's the only thing we're told to celebrate. And I guess again, celebrate is a term I'm using very loosely right now. Commemorate, I suppose. Commemorate. Yeah, if we're supposed to party over Jesus getting crucified, I don't know. So
it's just an extra long meeting.
Exactly. Yes. So at the memorial service, they at one point, about halfway through the service, they pass around a plate of unleavened bread, which is supposed to signify Jesus' body, and then they pass around a goblet. It was never a glass in my congregation. It was a very ornate-looking crystal goblet of red wine, supposed to symbolize Jesus' blood. And if you believed that you were of the 144,000, which is a select few of God's chosen people that are supposed to ascend to heaven upon their death to rule over the paradise earth after Armageddon. So there's only 144,000 that are supposed to receive this divine calling. That's the only way you know. So apparently you have a dream, some sort of divine calling that you are of this minority of people that will rule with Jesus in heaven. So if you believe that you are of the 144,000, as this goblet of wine comes along, you're supposed to take a single sip, pass it along. You're supposed to take a single bite of the unleavened bread, pass it along. Yes, in my congregation, I can count on, 2 fingers the amount of times that I saw some old dude, usually from another congregation, usually somebody visiting from another congregation, that would partake, and it would be like, holy shit, he's one of them. Can you believe it? We saw one. It was like seeing a fucking unicorn in the woods. It was like, oh my God, they do exist. And, but I always thought that would be a fun way to go out. That's my biggest regret is that, I wasn't disfellowshipped. I was baptized, but I wasn't disfellowshipped. I just kind of like faded away. And my biggest regret is that I didn't go out with a bang, like go to a memorial. And then when the wine gets passed along, just fucking chug the whole thing and smash the glass against the wall. Be like, suck it, fuckers.
Dude, it's like he's an imposter. Yeah. Dude, we had one guy, we watched him. He looked like a goblin. Brother Porter. He looked like he's about 200 years old. And he took that cracker every year when I was a kid from like 5 to 10 years old. And I think he passed, but one person in our congregation. We stared at him the whole time. That was the highlight of the night. He's going to drink it. He's immortal.
Right. Turns out he was just senile and hungry.
His blood sugar was low, so he took the cracker.
But that's also one of those things that even once you leave the organization, they still try to rope you in. Like, all right, you're not going to the meetings, at least come to the memorial. Like, you can kind of stay in good standing with the witnesses if you at least go to the memorial once a year. So I know a lot of people that are on the outs, but they still do that to appease their family members. They can still kind of have somewhat of a relationship with their family, so they're not completely ostracized.
Like me, not disfellowship, so I can just come in. I'm kind of like I'm welcomed every time I come because I'm fresh blood. Like oh, maybe we can still get him. I just remember not to swear and stuff on. Hopefully, like I forget who I'm around. I'm just talking freely, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't do that." You know what I mean? It's fucking wild,
For sure.
dude. I was gonna ask. I always forget. There is a story about it. Something happened on some mountain, Sinai or something, where that's where it was like talked about, like the 144. But for me, dude, there's 8.5 million Jehovah's Witnesses right now through history since 1919. Who knows how long? But 144,000 seems like we'd be out already, unless they're being really picky. I mean, can I get a number? Are we sold out yet? I mean, where are we at? How many tickets are left? You know?
They're overselling heaven.
Oh, don't tell them yet, but they're not really getting in. They're alternates. I'm just fucking whatever, dude.
That's a good point, man. Yeah, they must have reached that number by now.
I told my grandmother once, I was like, I don't like what you guys are selling. And she goes, what do you mean? I go, you're selling a little bit of heaven, which everyone likes that incentive because it's pretty easy to hang on to. And you're taking that away. And the rest of us are supposed to fight to, gentrify Earth? Like come back, get resurrected and just fix Cleveland? I don't think so, dude. Like I want to go to heaven or nothing. You know what I mean? I don't want to come back here.
Which I always thought, if you're given the two options of, so we've mapped out what the 144,000 is, and then the alternative to that, if you're not of the 144,000, you are destined to survive Armageddon. You're either destined to survive Armageddon if you're alive at the time of Armageddon, and then get to live in a paradise Earth where man and beast live as one, and you're destined to live on this paradise in a state of perfection forever, everlasting life. And if you die, say I was to die now as an upstanding member of Jehovah's Witnesses, I would be resurrected to live on this paradise Earth. So if given the two options of living forever on a paradise Earth, rolling around in a field with a panda, which is what they have on all their publications. That's right. That's how they try to rope the kids in, right? They make it look like a fucking petting zoo. Like a petting zoo with wild exotic animals. And you're supposed to believe that this lion is not going to rip you to shreds because he's been brainwashed by Jehovah, I suppose, to...
Yeah, and so if you get resurrected too, like, are you going to have the same knowledge already? Like, do you know how to cook already? Or are you just going to be born into a new world and be like, okay, I need to decorate this way? I mean, come on, man. The brain just goes crazy.
Exactly.
Because all we know is just normal functions in human life, and you're telling me I'm going to get resurrected and know how to... I mean, it sounds like a big job.
But if given the option, like, what's so appealing about heaven? To rule over the great crowd that's living in a paradise. You're given a job. Now you're working for the man.
I mean, because our brains are so small as far as all that stuff, it's like all I can think about is like what normal human functions would I do, or like what I would need. So it's like that's why it's so easy to fight back on. It's like none of this makes sense in our brain of what we're supposed to do. And I'd rather probably, and me, heaven means what? Am I going to be able to fly? Is it going to be cool? Like, I mean, what else is going on? All the weird shit about heaven is probably not true. It seems a little more like grandiose. You know what I mean? You throw Earth into it, and I'm like, this sounds like a Home Depot, actually. It doesn't sound like you're selling anything sexy.
So as a kid, would you say that the propaganda was alluring for you? These tracks, these full color illustrations of kids frolicking in a field with lions and panda bears and whatnot. Was that appealing to you? Was that an allure? No?
Nope. From day one, I had so many questions. Like, I feel like my gut saved me from a lot of extra heartache and like whatever, like being disfellowshipped and all that stuff. Cause I was just like, this doesn't add up, man. So I just played it cool and I was nice and I did whatever I wanted. I was trying to just be out all the time and miss meetings if I could. I mean, I didn't grab on. None of it made sense.
Okay.
And the whole, I don't know. None of it did. Adam and Eve, if he created them, why'd he let them fucking eat the fucking apple? I mean, come on.
Yeah. He gave them free will, and then they were condemned for exercising that free will.
God was bored. He wanted to play a little mind fuck and see what he could do with these human beings. And I mean, I don't know.
His experiment blew up in his face, and now we're all being punished for it.
Yeah, but he also is supposed to know everything. So what the fuck? And he knew that it wasn't going to work out. Hello. You know what I mean? That's what they didn't like me. I had too many questions.
Yeah, they don't like you. They don't like you thinking for yourself or questioning anything. You're just supposed to.
Or they always said this. They always said the signs of the times, like how they are now. I'm like, I bet being holding some emperor's pocket and being a sex slave when you're like 12 in Rome was probably pretty bad too. I think times have always been bad. So don't say now that's why Armageddon's coming. They could have done it back then too.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Very good point.
It's just,
there's tragedy, catastrophe, natural disasters, any point in history.
Mary Magdalene, everything was around.
So you were never drinking the Kool-Aid. So you basically, you had one foot out the door from as early as you can remember. So you were going through the motions, but you never really bought it.
Yeah. Well, I got lucky. Well, the thing was because it was so hard growing up anyways in my environment, like at home, that like would just like, when you're a kid, you just want to be normal and accepted by everyone. So if I'm trying to balance two shitty lives to get, you know what I mean? Like, how do I make these Jehovah's Witness people happy? So like, at least I'm not ostracized. How do I make friends at school and act like I'm not a Jehovah's Witness? So, I mean, I've always felt like I was never myself. So I was like, this sucks. I can't wait till it's over.
Yeah, it is. There's no training like it in terms of becoming the ultimate diplomat, right? Maintaining this kind of status, floating. And that's what like kind of kept me from getting bullied in school, was like just trying to keep a low profile, make a couple alliances with the jocks, the theater kids, the art kids, just don't make a lot of noise, be cool.
Everything is so sterile. Everything, you just see everyone, all the kids in the whole congregation, you could just feel their hormones burning. Like just these people walking around, like just like almost like they're in like they're in a trance. Like we can't do any of that. It's like, this is not going to end well.
Yes.
There's no way that, and most of them do fall short, especially the ones that get into it early, like they're adults, like they know they want to do this for the rest of their life, and then they get a boner and it's over. They're like, it's done now.
That level of repression is just it's a ticking time bomb. It's a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
That's why fucking Japanese businessmen are buying used panties at a vending machines. Like you cannot repress people's natural sexual appetite.
You can't.
It will blow up in your face. Exactly. And yes, what you said earlier is absolutely true. You get 19-year-olds getting married just because they want to fuck, and they realize they have no chemistry with this person whatsoever.
Not at all.
And then you're not allowed to get divorced. The only grounds for divorce is domestic violence, is abuse. Or no, it's not domestic. It's infidelity, meaning I could marry a Jehovah's Witness woman. As a Jehovah's Witness, I could marry this Jehovah's Witness woman, realize we have no chemistry, be miserable. I could come home from work, beat the shit out of her every single day, and she can't leave me. She can't leave me. It's insane. But if I was to cheat on her, then she could leave me. I heard a story once. There was a woman who was beaten by her husband every night, and then finally she got him disfellowship because she took a video of him smoking, and smoking is against the rules.
There
and
you
that's
go.
what did it.
Yeah.
So the things that they prioritize in terms of punishable offenses are mind-blowing.
Dude, it's great. And that's still the case because my stepmother has friends that like have separated from their husbands, but they still live together because getting divorced is more of a headache. I guess now they've morphed into like some exceptions to the rule. Like they are not going to get remarried, but they are not together. Like they have a talk with them behind closed doors because it's like irreconcilable differences or something. They've had to bend a little bit.
Yeah.
I know. But dude, it's nuts, man. It's just...
So you were never fully in it. So you were kind of like living a double life. So when did you start dabbling in, sex, drinking, drug, all the things that teenagers eventually gravitate toward?
Well, I would have started sooner if I would have hit puberty early enough, but I was a late bloomer, so that kept me on the shelf a little longer too. So as soon as I had a little hair on my balls, I was ready to go. I was ready to break all the rules. Dude, it was horrible, man. 10th grade really, because my mother and father were divorced since I was like a child, like 2. So she never was a Jehovah's Witness. Like I said, her mother was. So I would go to her house on the weekends and live a totally different life. And as I got older and older in high school, it was like by 11th grade, I would just not show up on time on a Tuesday to go. And then my stepmom started giving up, and then, it just kind of fizzled out. By 18, I was like, yeah, I'm out.
Dude, I was a late bloomer too, which I guess worked in our favor as witnesses, right? Slightly less time of feeling like you're going to just burst out of your own skin with your raging hormones. Dude, I got my driver's license. My voice hadn't changed yet.
Yeah.
And then I totaled a car within 6 months of getting my license.
Of course.
I'm surprised the cop wasn't like, "Does your mommy know that you have this car?" You know you shouldn't be driving, little boy.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, dude, it was a lot. But especially when it's served by someone like my father, like I said, it's like when you can feel the hypocrisy too, like that they aren't in it for the right reasons. That even made me more like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like when something's served to you in a kind of an unpure way. So it's just like, so that made it even worse. But
yeah, dude, there's a lot of hypocrisy because it's completely unrealistic standard for how to live your life. It's completely unrealistic.
Yeah, or it's like you can drink, but not till you get drunk. It's like, how many people have more than 2 drinks and don't get a little buzzed if they don't drink all the time? So then they feel in trouble for that. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Right. You're allowed to drink in moderation, but you're never allowed to tip the scale. It's like, well, how do you think people learn to drink in moderation? It's from fucking embarrassing themselves at a family reunion.
Yeah, or it's self-medicating is why people drink too much. So, but maybe they're stressed out because they don't know if they're going to live forever. So, you know what I mean? Whatever.
There you go.
I mean, it's hard. There's nothing to take the edge off. You know what I mean? It's kind of wild. They make it real hard. It's like definitely the people that are devout too. It's like you can't say that they don't really put the effort in because it's like there's no real greed involved either. As far as some churches, it's like really these people are just like simply living really weird.
Yeah.
A little bit of money once in a while, not very much.
So when you decided to leave, since you were always kind of questioning things from the get-go and never really buying into it, when you decided to leave, there wasn't some major uproar from your family. They saw it coming.
No. Yeah, and also my dad fell apart within that time too. So then it was like my whole connection to it, even though my stepmother cared deeply for me, when she separated from my dad, that it also helped sever it all. Because it was like, who's going to tell Aaron to go to the meetings? Now he's just with his mom or with his friends. And he's whatever. I wasn't talking to my dad a lot. So that kind of helped, just speed it up. So by like 18, it was just people like, oh, Aaron's our brother that's not a Jehovah's Witness.
Right.
Like step siblings. Yeah.
So,
fun stuff.
So then when you left, did it feel like you were completely starting over? Did you already have friends on the outside? Or did it feel like you were hitting the reset button?
No, dude, all my friends, because all I was really, I chose a side. I wanted people my own age to like me, and I wanted to have a life or a crew of people like as you're going through your teens. So my friends became my family. I didn't, I was pretty much just what do they call it? A person of the world or whatever they call it.
A worldly person.
A worldly person. It's a big word. You're worldly. Okay.
You had immersed yourself in Babylon the Great.
Babylon the Great. Oh, man. Dude, it's whack.
So obviously you must have gone off the rails at some point because you are a sober fellow, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So as is common with a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, with that level of repression, when you do leave, it's a lot of making up for lost time. All this stuff that you're told not to do, all these things that teenagers kind of, in my opinion, kind of need to do. You need to learn from your failures and let yourself, act a little reckless and get some shenanigans out of your system to find this middle ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
We weren't able to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but when I left, it was just, sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Oh yeah, that's what I did. I had a list. Yeah, I was like, I'm free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what it did too is like all the mind fucking that happened my whole life. That was part of my drinking too, because I'm like, what is this shit? Cards I got in life. Like I got to figure this out. It's like I got these messed up hypocrisy of my dad being Jehovah's Witness. These people all severed. I'm like, so I just went in hard. Yeah, definitely wanted attention from outside people. Dated a lot. Like I said, when I hit puberty, I was like, a lot of people that didn't pay attention to me. I tried to make sure that they liked me. All that stuff. It just developed a lot of neediness. I don't know. It wasn't like it created more problems for a while. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know how to navigate it.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said neediness because I'm only, you got a long shelf life.
Took me a long time to get that. Yeah.
In terms of sobriety, you're way ahead of the game. I've only got 60 days. Yesterday was 60 days actually.
Congratulations, 2
but
months.
I realized early on, I had a revelation that it's not drinking, it's not weed. My real addiction was validation and needing to be seen a certain way in people's eyes, needing to be seen as a normal person or caught up and just like everybody else.
Yeah, because we're not comfortable in our skin. It's like when you don't get the right kind of confidence when you're a kid, like they thought they were, but it's like throwing that kind of shit on a kid. You shouldn't even press any religion on your child, really.
No.
But like really throwing them into this whole school and this thing and everything about it, live and breathe. Like, there's not, we are in the real world. So it sucks that it's like, no, you want us to like navigate through both, basically. It's not like we're in a village somewhere. We're only around Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't do that. So it's like, yeah, so it created a lot of doubt, a lot of lack of confidence. And that was really hard for me as a performer. Like you never believe you can do shit when nobody in your family is even, that's not that kind of rhythm, like, what are you going to go do? That sounds really worldly and this, and, so just, yeah, it was hard for a while. Everything was hard. It made things harder for a bit, but then obviously better.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 40 years old, but in a lot of ways I feel 20 years old because I feel like my life didn't really start until I left when I was 20. And then at the age of 20, trying to cobble together an identity after just being, and it's so, it's the way that you're brought up to be as a Jehovah's Witness is so counterintuitive to adapting to the real world, because to be an upstanding Jehovah's Witness, you are supposed to just be a cog in the machine, just blindly follow along and just sacrifice any sort of individuality and just be a devoted servant of Jehovah. And that works. You do that, you're in good standing. Then you get in the outside world and you have these relationships and people don't know you and you don't know who you are or how to be yourself.
Yeah.
Because there is no you. You don't have a fucking identity. It's been erased. It goes hand in hand with the brainwashing. So then you have to scramble to try to become something or somebody and medicating the whole way through. I mean, I'm speaking for myself at this point, but I don't know if the truth is the same for you.
Sure. No, me
medicating
too.
the whole way through because you're just in a state of overwhelm and feeling incompetent and behind and lost.
Yeah.
Right? Because you feel like you're just floating in space. Like, oh my God, when am I going to get my feet on the ground?
And what I noticed too is I had like a lot of like, as a person in the world, like people that were Jehovah's Witnesses, they'd be like thinking I was out of pocket a lot of times. Cause like, when I was trying to be funny or do something like, when you're so sheltered in certain ways, it's like when something would come out of my mouth, they'd be like, that's weird. I mean, I didn't even have a gauge on that stuff. Cause I was like, oh, I got to go hard in the world or whatever. People are like, yeah, that's pretty weird, dude. You know what I mean? I'm just like trying to be edgy or something like that's crazy. But
yes. Now that you've been out, so you left when you were how old?
I left when I'd say, by 14, I wasn't going to any meetings.
Wow. Good for you.
And then I just, and then, 20 years of basically progressive drinking. But yeah, from 14 to 32, I was just like kind of a mess. Like, living in New York, that's another thing. You live closer to Connecticut's close, but it's like, I ran away to the biggest city I could find, went to school there just to kind of disappear into that. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where it all, like, you don't get out of it. Everything has to be accounted for eventually when you kind of get clarity. So that was part of it. Like, I had to rub all that off me, become a human being, get my own morals and my own scruples about things, point of view. You know what I mean? Instead of just being like, I'm damned to hell in that world. I don't know how to live in this one. You know what I mean?
I feel the same way. I mean, like it was like we were raised this way of being good, upstanding Christian boys, being these squeaky clean, servants of Jehovah, living in his image, being a direct reflection of him and his will for us. And then you get out of that, and then the pendulum swings in the other direction, and you become this hedonistic fuck up who's just going balls to the wall, just trying to live a life that you were forced to abstain from for so long. And now
like that I was robbed.
Exactly. Yes. And now I'm finally kind of finding this middle ground. Hey, you see what I'm doing right now? I'm using gestures. If I was giving a talk right now, the elders would be like, hey, great, man, you're doing it so natural. You're using gestures. But yes, it's taken me 40 years to now find this middle ground and realizing that, drinking, drugs are not going to help at all. It's all these feelings of uselessness and feeling ill-equipped to navigate the world are only exacerbated. you know? And for so long, I was like, oh, I need this to adapt. This is what other people do. Surely I need this too. You know, the idea of doing anything in moderation was out the fucking window.
Yeah. You have no, meter for that shit. And that's the kind of thing. It's just like, you just feel like you're trying to feel normal, but then everyone has normal problems. And like the one thing I definitely disagree with them on is that if we're all created by Jehovah or whatever, then there's gay people that their role on gay people is like, now, if you admit you're gay, you can still be in the church, but you just can't have a gay lifestyle. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, it's like, that's not what gay person is going to do that loves himself. I mean, it's like extra hate. It's like, now I really hate myself. I mean, what the hell's going on? You never get to be gay and all the fun stuff.
I was just talking about that with my last guest who's gay, and the fact that they've doubled down on their homophobia and their stance on not having any flexibility for homosexuality at all is mind-blowing. Like if they want to increase their numbers,
that's what,
dude, open the door to these people. You're missing out on a huge contingent.
And shame on them, because they're almost like every other closed-minded religion when it comes to that. Like, they're not even setting themselves apart from all the mouth breather, like just holy rollers that are like, you'll burn in hell if you're gay. It's like, you guys don't have a better option. I mean, like, you guys are supposed to be the humanitarian kind of like, I don't know. I can't imagine how it's just always the same shit. And then the elders are the people that know all your secrets.
Oh,
Jesus Christ. I learned one thing at a very young age is like, I knew how to act to like fool them if I wanted, but I just never wanted to. I was like, I didn't want to be fake. I was like, it'd be easy to have a double life or do whatever, but that's a lot of work, and you got to wear bad suits longer, just dressed up like a fucking mini adult.
Yeah, you look
mini me walking around. I had totes, those rubber things that go over your dress shoes, walking around like, what am I, a fucking 7-year-old Bible salesman? I'm like,
you gotta wear dress clothes 3 times a week. So your mom has to go out and buy you fucking suits that you can have in a rotating basis. But then, you're a kid, you're growing. So my mom would buy me suits that were 3 sizes too big. So every talk that I gave, I look like fucking David Byrne and Stop Making Sense.
You look like Tom Hanks and big.
Let's try to wrap it up on a positive note. Jehovah's Witnesses have fucked us up beyond all repair. We're still trying to get our shit together, get our head on straight. What do you feel like they did that you have taken with you that is a positive? Do you feel like they instilled any moral values in you, or any anything that is applicable to living your life as a...
I'm glad you asked, because the one thing, because my dad was such a mess, but for a certain point in my life, very pivotal time, like I was 10, 11, I had enough morals put into me about what the Jehovah's Witnesses taught. So it gave me a little bit of a compass, because I could have went really the other way with like the bad neighborhood I lived in. I could have just been like a locked up kid or something. You know what I'm saying? So I do take that with me, like the structure I had because of my stepmother and being around nice Jehovah's Witness people, even though I didn't want all of that, is like being in a nice shelter. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the orphanage I was in they were kind to me. You know what I mean? So it gave me a little bit. So I think that did help me kind of have a little bit of a, morality gauge, like how to be.
I agree with that. I feel like it's definitely instilled me with a certain set of morals. I feel like I was trained at an early age to be able to make eye contact with adults, that I see most kids are fucking staring at their feet the whole time an adult addresses them,
Exactly.
You're able to engage with adults like most kids cannot. You do have a moral compass. You have a certain set of manners that a lot of people are lacking. And I also feel like it instilled in me a discipline that a lot of people don't have. That's why being a comic has been hard, because I've come to realize too in sobriety that complete freedom for me is bad news. I need structure. I need discipline in my life. I need something that I do on a daily basis that I need to maintain, because that's what I grew up with, and to think that I completely rid myself of that and find a way to navigate the world is, I tried it. It didn't work. And now, I'm trying to apply that discipline that I had into sobriety and trying to hold on to this life that I've cobbled together for myself. But just having an open-ended day with nothing asked of me is actually terrifying.
Yeah, getting your head too much.
Yeah. So I think that having a discipline and being, regimented about certain things,
Sure,
that's
absolutely.
something that I value from it as well.
Yeah, with recovery too, the same thing. It's like I tell people when I help them get into rehab, it's like use the tenacity you had as a drug addict or an alcoholic. Use that in your regular life. Like we can run shit because we're kind of like, we operate in chaos and like are growing up that way. It's like, adversity is kind of more like, okay, I can get over this or whatever. Once we get solid, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That helps too.
Well, hey man, great talking to you. I mean, I'm sure we could talk about this shit all day. We might have to do a part 2.
Yeah, I'm sorry if it was boring.
Are you kidding me? I've learned early on. I've done a few episodes where I've navigated away from Jehovah's Witness stuff, and people are like, what the fuck does this have to do about Jehovah's Witnesses? So this is a great way to celebrate our 10th episode by actually having our first actual former XJW on.
Dear Heavenly Father.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah, in Jesus' name, amen.
There you go, folks. Aaron Putnam. Give him a follow on Instagram at @comic_Aaron Putnam. He's touring all over the place all the time. He's a busy dude, super funny. Chicago-based comedian. If you live in the Chicago area, make sure to check him out on your home turf. But it was great. Great trading war stories with a fellow apostate. Definitely going to have him back. And again, please, this was great to finally catch up with an ex-Jehovah's Witness. Please email the show. I want to hear your story. I want to talk about it on the air. If you're willing, I will not share any of your information. Your story will be shared anonymously, but you can be of huge service and help to other apostates, other people that are currently in the organization that want to break free. You don't have to just be Jehovah's Witness. If you're Hasidic, Scientologist, Mormon, any religious extremist group that has broken free or hoping to break free or just want to share your experience to get some insight, advice, I'd love to hear your story. So please email the show, jehovahboypodcast@gmail.com. Please subscribe to my YouTube for full-length clips, youtube.com/@whodougsmith. And if you have not joined the Patreon, please join the Patreon. Show your support. You can get early access, full ad-free video of each episode. Patreon.com/JehovahBoy. Make sure you follow me on Instagram @whodougsmith. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to my producer, George. Give him a follow @DrPhotograph. Again, thank you. We really appreciate your support. Can't wait to keep rocking and rolling with you guys. Tune in next week. Goodbye.